Nancy Clancy, Super Sleuth. Written by Jane O'Connor. Book 1. Chapter 1. Hardly a Mystery. Nancy Clancy was all set to solve a mystery. She had a fancy magnifying glass complete with rhinestones. She had spiral notebook and a flashlight. She had sunglasses, a hat with a floppy brim, and a pink trench coat. A trench coat was a kind of raincoat that detectives wore. She had superb detective skills. She was naturally nosy. So she was good at snooping. Investigating was a professional word for snooping. Really, the only thing Nancy was missing was a mystery. If only more criminals lived around here, she said to her father. He was at the kitchen table reading the Sunday sports pages. What? He said, without looking up. Nobody ever gets kidnapped. I bet there's never been a jewel heist. Then, in case her dad didn't know, Nancy added, that means a jewel robbery. Nancy sighed. I wish we lived somewhere like River Heights. That's where Nancy Drew lived. Nancy loved the Nancy Drew books. She had read 5 so far. In River Heights, criminals were lurking around every corner. Sounds fun, her dad murmured. Nancy's mother came into the kitchen. Nancy's little sister trailed behind her. She had on blue flippers that made a slapping sound as she walked. Have either of you seen JoJo's snorkel mask? Nancy's mom asked. Nancy's little sister hardly ever took off her snorkel mask or flippers. JoJo and her friend Freddie liked to pretend they were deep-sea divers searching for buried treasure. Nancy's mom poured herself coffee. We've looked everywhere. It's a mystery where it went. Mystery? Nancy just heard the magic word. Okay, so it wasn't a big deal mystery, but all great detectives had to start somewhere. She spread her arms. Ta-da! Nancy Clancy, Super Sleuth at your service. Ah, honey, her mom smiled. You'll look for it? Sure. My rates are very reasonable. Nancy paused. Only kidding. You're family, so my services are free. Nancy went and slipped on her pink trench coat. It was important to dress like a professional. Jojo, I just need to ask you a few questions, she said, pulling the notepad from her pocket. Trust me, we'll get to the bottom of this. At that moment, Bree appeared at the back door. She was wearing a trench coat, too. Hers was purple. Jojo left this at our house. Bree was holding a snorkel mask. Thanks, Nancy's mom said. Then she turned to Nancy. Sorry, sweetie. Nancy scowled. Her first case was closed before it even got open. I have to pick up a book for my mother at the twins' house, Bree told Nancy. Come with me. Chapter 2. Snooping. The book for Bree's mom was in the Pulaski's mailbox. Nancy and Bree were about to walk back home when Bree held a finger to her lips. Shh! Listen! Nancy could hear the Pulaski twins arguing in their backyard. No fair, Wanda shouted. I get to pitch now. No, it's still my turn, Rhonda said. It's not. Rhonda and Wanda were a year younger than Nancy and Bree. They are both superb at sports and very nice, except to each other. They got lots of fights, not just yelling fights, but hitting fights. Let's investigate, Nancy said. She looked around. The coast is clear. The girls dropped to their knees and crawled to the side of the twins' house. They tiptoed along the wall, their backs pressed flat against it. Silent as cats. They stopped at the back porch and hid behind the outdoor grill. Neither twin had spotted them. It was like Nancy and Bree were invisible. They smiled and high-fived each other. Here comes my fastball, Rhonda stated, spinning her arm around like a pinwheel. I quit, Wanda threw down her mitt. I'm not playing any more. She started to stomp off. Rhonda spun her arm around once more and let go of the ball. Just in time, Wanda saw the ball whizzing right at her. She sprang forward to catch it. Oops! She missed. Double oops! She stumbled and landed face down on the ground. Oh, that had to hurt. Nancy peeked over the top of the grill. Wanda's bleeding. Excuse me. She split her lip. I can't look. Bree stayed hunched down. She hated the sight of blood. Nancy watched Wanda pull herself up. She was crying. Blood was all over her mouth and chin. Her hands, too. Wanda looked like something out of a horror movie. "You did that on purpose," Wanda yelled at Rhonda. "I'm going to get you back. I'm going to tell Nancy what you did the other day." Rhonda froze for a second. Nancy did, too. "You swore you wouldn't tell," Rhonda shouted. "Tough. I'm telling Nancy." Nancy wanted to pop up from behind the grill and shout, "Tell me what?" But Bree grabbed her by the arm and yanked her down. "We're snooping, remember?" Bree hissed. A moment later, the twins' dad appeared on the back porch. He looked mad. "Are you two fighting again?" he said. Then he took each of them by the arm and marched them inside the house. Chapter 3. The plot thickens. So, what is Rhonda scared I'll find out? What secret has Wanda been keeping? Nancy made her voice so soft and spooky. "It's the secret of the twins," she giggled. "Doesn't it sound like a Nancy Drew mystery?" The girls were in Nancy's backyard at the Sleuth headquarters. When they grew up, they planned to open a detective agency together. It would be called Partners in Crime Fighting, and they had made superb business cards already. "Maybe Rhonda spread a mean rumor about you," Bree said, "like you smell or have cooties. Rhonda's my friend. What motive would she have?" Ooh la la, Nancy felt all tingly just saying the word motive. It meant the reason for doing something bad. "Well," Bree drew the word out like she was thinking really hard. "Maybe you did something mean to Rhonda and she's paying you back." Nancy shook her head. "I didn't do anything." "Maybe it's something you don't even realize you did. But it got Rhonda mad, really mad, and so now Rhonda is seeking revenge," Nancy added. Bree nodded. Double ooh la la. Nancy's eyes lit up. There was something thrilling about this idea. Maybe she set up a booby trap to get me. Nancy pictured Rhonda digging a deep hole in her yard and covering it with grass and branches. As soon as Nancy walked over it, she'd plunge into the darkness. No one would hear her cries for help. Suddenly, Nancy heard her mother calling, "Nancy, are you in the clubhouse?" Nancy stuck her head out. "Mom, I told you before. It's not our clubhouse anymore. It's Sleuth headquarters." "Sorry, I forgot. Have you finished your paragraph for tomorrow?" Not exactly," Nancy answered. "Have you started it?" Not exactly." "Bree, I'm afraid you'll have to go home, and Nancy's mother pointed to the house, "get cracking." Nancy headed to her room. Nancy Drew was so lucky she never had to drop a case because of homework. Tomorrow, Nancy and all the other kids in their class had to bring in something special. A memento was what her teacher, Mr. Dudney, had called it. The memento couldn't be a video game or a new pair of sneakers. A memento needed to be something personal, like a photo of a dead person in your family from long ago. Write a paragraph about what the memento means to you, but don't sign your name. Mr. Dudney said, "Keep it a secret. We'll have fun guessing who each memento belongs to." "Oh, so there'll be mystery mementos," Nancy said. Exactly, Mr. Dude told her. "I'm bringing something, too. Then on Tuesday, all mystery mementos will be on display for Family Day." Nancy planned to bring the witch tree symbol, which was a Nancy Drew book. It was special because long ago it belonged to Nancy's neighbor, Mrs. Devine. On the cover, Nancy Drew looked different. Her clothes and hairdo were old-fashioned. The only problem was that Nancy wanted her memento to be unique, something nobody else had. What if Bree's mystery memento was the Nancy Drew book that Mrs. Devine had given her? Bree had already written her paragraph days ago. She never left homework for the last minute. So Nancy sent a message to Bree in their top-secret special delivery mailbox. It was a basket on a rope strung between Nancy's bedroom window and Bree's. "What is your memento?" she wrote. the message in secret code. Only the two of them knew it. They needed a secret code if one of them was ever in danger and had to send for help. Nancy rang a bell to let Bree know Mel was coming. Then she pulled the rope until the basket reached Bree's window. A few minutes later, a message came back. Bree's was in secret code, too. It took Nancy a while to understand it. In secret code talk, that was called deciphering a message. Bree had written, "Sorry, Mr. D told us not to tell." Oh, Bree could be exasperating sometimes. Nancy thought about writing another message, but writing it in code took so long. Of course, she could just pick up the phone or open the window and shout. Nancy would say, "Can you just tell me if you're bringing a Nancy Drew book? I'm only asking because I don't want to bring the same thing." But it wouldn't do any good. Bree was obstinate. That meant stubborn. In the end, Nancy decided to bring in a sparkling chunk of rock that looked like gold. She wanted kids to have a hard time figuring out who it belonged to, so when she wrote her paragraph, Nancy disguised her handwriting. "This glittering rock is called pyrite. Another name for it is fool's gold. That's because it looks like genuine gold. Long ago in days of yore, miners would find a chunk and think they had struck it rich. The joke was on them. Pyrite is not worth a lot of money, but it's still magnificent. I chose this memento because it was a present from my best friend Bree. She bought it in a gift shop at a famous science museum in New York City." It was quite a superb paragraph, if Nancy did say so herself. She had used vivid, interesting words. Mr. Dewdney would like that. Then something caught Nancy's eye. In one sentence there was a dead giveaway. Everyone would know Nancy had written it. Quickly she erased the words, "my best friend Bree." Instead she wrote, "an acquaintance of mine." Nancy put the rock and her paragraph in her backpack. Not even 5 minutes later the mail bell rang again. Bree's message said, "I just saw the twins drive off with their parents. We can go back and snoop in their yard. Maybe we'll find the booby trap." Nancy grabbed her trench coat. Bree was already waiting for her on the sidewalk. Bree whistled on the way over to the twins' house. Whistling was a superb detective skill. It made it seem like they were just out for some fresh air. No one would ever suspect that they were snooping. At first glance, the twins' yard looked the same as it had this morning. Grass, trees, a swing set in the back, lots of sports stuff everywhere. Nancy, however, was very observant. That meant she noticed stuff that other people didn't. Noticing stuff was also a superb detective skill, kind of made up for not being able to whistle. What Nancy noticed now was a pile of branches near the swing set. "Bree, look, a clue. I bet those branches are left over from when Rhonda made the booby trap." Bree clutched Nancy's arm. "Oh, I'm getting chills." A couple of large leaf rakes were on the porch. "I have an idea," Nancy said. By pushing the rakes in front of them up and down the yard, the girls would spot the hidden trap before either of them fell into it. Unfortunately, the yard was pretty big. They hadn't covered much ground when they heard a car was pulling into the twins' driveway. Bree and Nancy dropped the rakes and scrammed. They ran through the lilac bushes in between the twins' house and Miss Devine's. They dashed across Miss Devine's yard, wiggled through the hedge that separated her yard from Nancy's, and hid inside headquarters. Whew, that was a close call! But they were safe. They collapsed into the beanbag chairs. "You really think there's a booby trap?" Bree asked. She sounded doubtful now. "More and more I'm sure of it. We need to search that whole yard, but let's sneak back under cover of darkness." That meant at night, but sounded way more dangerous. They had to use flashlights. There'd be spooky night noises. Nancy could picture it all. "We're not allowed out after dark," Bree pointed out. Nancy knew that. She just didn't want to be reminded of it. Not right now. It was more fun picturing the two of them sneaking around in the dark. Nancy sighed. It was awfully difficult to be a glamorous detective when your bedtime was at 8:30.